Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the CR Sports Podcast. This has been a long time coming because there were some empty promises made on some episodes that never got released, but that was because we had a lot going on, Garrett. And finally, we're back home. This is a completely new setting for everybody, but it's a beautiful day, and we're just happy to cherish in the warm weather before we get to some excellent games here tonight.
Yeah, we got, some warm weather finally, even creeped over 80 degrees today. Beautiful day in upstate New York. We will be better about getting the podcast out to you. I know the end of the year brought forth, some special events for both of us, and it was just busier times. But now that we're back home for the summer, we'll be giving you guys your weekly episodes that we know you're craving. And the biggest game of tonight, Game 6 between the Knicks and Celtics. Let's jump right into the NBA playoffs before we talk some baseball.
I feel like we're in the booth right now, ready to call the game, sitting courtside at MSU with the headsets back on. But yeah, big game. As big as it gets.
Yeah, and you look at this series, this is a series where it could even be over in either direction. I mean, the Celtics have led every game in the series by at least 14 points. Game 1 and 2
Yeah.
were almost mirror images of each other. It was 72 to 52. The Celtics had the lead in game 1, 73 to 53, the lead in game 2, and both games ended with a Mikal Bridges steal. So, a little, like I said, mirror images of each other, but the Celtics really have to be kicking each other, blowing two 20-point leads at home to begin the series off. And from the Knicks aspect, they were able to go home to Game 3 with a 2-0 lead without even playing, necessarily very well. Obviously, the Celtics shot the ball terribly, which is the reason the Knicks were able to come back. But then the Knicks winning, despite Tatum getting hurt in Game 4, the Knicks were likely going to win that game anyway before Tatum went out. They were up, I think, 7 by the time he got hurt. So the Celtics bounced back, won Game 3. Then the Knicks made a statement, which a lot of people, hadn't really seen the Knicks make because of the big comebacks in Game 1 and Game 2. Was it a fluke, maybe?
And
The
a
Knicks
lot
made
of
a
people
statement in
saying
Game
that the
4.
Celtics, just because the only reason the Knicks won is because of the poor shooting of the Boston Celtics. That was a narrative
Yeah.
going into Game 4. And, Jason Tatum had one of the games of his career.
Yeah.
Right before he got hurt with 3 minutes left. After that steal by Anunoby, Knicks up 9. When Tatum goes out with less than 3 minutes left. Some speculation there from Boston fans, but I feel like the majority of people believe that game was already over, and Jalen Brunson was asserting himself as a true superstar, and even to the doubters that it still remain.
Yeah, the clutch player of the year. He won that award for a reason, and I think the Knicks really proved that they've been the clutcher team in this series. When the games have gotten tight in the fourth quarter, the Knicks have looked like the more comfortable team. They've made the more clutch plays, and Tatum. Prayers go up to him as he recently had Achilles surgery a couple days ago. So he will miss most likely all of next year. So we pray for a smooth recovery for him. But Game 6 tonight, it's an interesting spot because Tatum goes out and all the noise and all the attention goes towards Jaylen Brown. He was the Eastern Conference Finals MVP last year. He was the Finals MVP last year. He's been so good for the Celtics team, and he hadn't really shown up in this series. He'd had some really inconsistent shooting games. Game 5 was, you could call it the Luke Cornett game because he had 7 blocks and
5 and a quarter.
Played the best game of his life. But Jaylen Brown almost had a triple-double. He was scoring when he needed to, and he was playmaking. That was the true Jaylen Brown that we were used to seeing last year in the playoffs, and he really showed out. And I think that's why the Celtics were able to take and then control the rest of the game with that commanding lead and win by 25 without arguably their best player.
That's exactly what happened in Game 5. But, to all the panic that's going out there right now from the media and even from some Knicks fans, did anyone ever think that the Knicks were going to win in 5? No. Coming into the series, it wasn't. When you go up 2-0, I guess you say that's a possibility. But even then, people thought that Boston was still probably going to win the series. There was a lot of people that believed that, and they were going to fight back. And you're right, Garrett. Game 4 was really when the Knicks made a statement, said, okay, we belong. We can really beat the Boston Celtics, and we're on the precipice from doing it, going up 3-1. And in that game 4, or in that Game 5, excuse me, it was bad defense from New York. It was a combination of no one really having a good game outside of Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson. And if you're the Knicks, that is not a recipe to win a game. If Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson are your two best players on the floor. OG Anunoby was non-existent. Karl-Anthony Towns wasn't good. Jalen Brunson picked up 5 fouls in the third quarter. Now, you can blame officiating all you want because I think it was really bad in that game, but it's been hit or miss all series with both teams. And that's a separate problem that the NBA has, in my opinion. But, and Mikal Bridges also didn't have a good game. So I think it was weird because it's really concerning when you say, well, why did it seem like the Knicks didn't really want it as much as the Celtics in Game 5? They're right there, especially when you're tied at halftime. You're up in the first quarter for the first time in the series in Boston, ready to just take it right there, and then they fall apart and collapse in the third quarter, and then they just get blown out pretty much. It was disappointing to watch because they were up in the first half, but at the same time, tonight, Friday night, New York City, first time in 25 years in your home court, you have a chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and you can't. I mean, scratch last game, burn the tape. It doesn't even matter. Jalen Brunson has performed so well in games after he has lost in his career, and especially since he's been on the Knicks. The Knicks haven't lost over one game in a row this whole postseason either. They went to six with the Pistons too, so I think that's something that you got to put in your mind. It was more of a hard fought game five, but they lost barely in that game, and this game six, this is what it's made for. This is the reason I was just telling you before. This is the reason you're a sports fan. Days like this, especially for the New York area, you got the Subway Series starting off at 7, and then Knicks Celtics game 6, 8 o'clock tonight, and it doesn't really get much better. I think that there is a lot of pressure on the Knicks, but at the same time, there's been pressure on them in every single game. It's New York. It's Madison Square Garden. The lights are the brightest. There's always gonna be pressure on you. Um, you got the champs right on the ropes without Jason Tatum. It is time to assert yourself as, we built a team in this offseason to beat the Boston Celtics, and we're going to go do it.
Yeah, I think this is the most pressure the Knicks have faced all postseason because the game is at home and it's at MSG and it's a chance to close out the defending champs and go to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in like so long. Carmelo, Knicks legend, he was never able to do it. This would put Jalen Brunson and some of these other guys among Nick legends.
Yeah.
For pushing them to that Eastern
I mean,
Conference
I think
Finals.
Brunson, honestly, this is a conversation that we can have as well. I think he's already on the Mount Rushmore of New York Knicks.
I think he's gonna have to do it for a couple more years, but
Yeah.
I think he's trending in that direction. But you look at Game 5, the Celtics going back to Boston. They don't want to get embarrassed and lose in 5 games. They just lost their star player, Jaylen Brown. Some of these other guys, they're trying to make noise, and they're letting the NBA know that the Celtics, they're not just Tatum. They're a lot more than that. So I wasn't too shocked that the Celtics won or even
And you
blew
like the
out.
way they looked without Tatum, actually.
Yeah, I was actually a fan a lot more of how they played without Jason Tatum. I think this Knicks team is so much better when they're just spreading the ball out, or the Celtics team, excuse me, is so much better when they're spreading the ball out and they're moving the ball and they're just playing. And I felt like with Tatum, the ball was getting really sticky in his hands. It felt like he was trying to do a lot of ISO work, which that's not the Celtics' bread and butter. They want to get up and down the court and they want to run and gun threes. That's what Peyton Pritchard's on the court to do. That's why they have Derek White. Al Horford wants to shoot. Jaylen Brown will get him up. You saw Sam Hauser back for Game 5.
Big
We
help.
don't know yet if he's playing. He was out there just gunning threes. That's what the Celtics want to do. They want to play fast and they want to get up a lot of threes. They don't want to have a lot of ISO ball. And the reason possibly that they lost those first 2 games was because of the shooting slumps. But at the same time, the Knicks haven't shot that ball that well this series.
No.
They can definitely shoot the ball better. You
They
mentioned
shot it really well in Game 4.
Robinson and Hart having big games last in Game 5, and that's not the recipe for success for the Knicks. The recipe for success is Hart gets his 10 to 15 he gets gritty buckets. He outworks the other team. Brunson gets 25 to 35. He gets his clutch buckets in the fourth quarter. Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby score 15 to 20 when they need to. Mikal gets some clutch buckets down the stretch, and Cat scores 20 to 25 because he's the Knicks' second best player, and he needs to play like that tonight.
And he does. He needs to assert himself and be really strong mentally as well, because I think a lot of times that he's dealing with stuff, he's, saying, oh, blaming the refs this way or that way, and just not really being that true, like, alpha down low that they need him to be the rock. I love the Knicks when they put Robinson and Towns on the same floor. Mitchell Robinson's plus minus when he's in the game is ridiculous. I think the Knicks are like plus 26 on the Celtics versus down 60 when he's in. And when he's making his free throws, which he did, that's if you want to pick out a silver lining from Game 5 that was bad for the Knicks overall. It was that Mitchell Robinson made his free throws. I don't think he missed. I think he was 6 for 6. It was crazy. That's been a hacker Robinson. That's been their tendency for the Celtics. It's been a strategy, and honestly, it's worked. But Garrett, what you described with those numbers, Brunson 30, Cat 25, Bridges and Anunoby 20, both 20 plus, and Hart 15. Get him 10 boards as well. Get him a double double, and Robinson like over 10 boards on the glass. a lot of offensive rebounds as well. When they do that, that was game 4. And if they can do that tonight, there's no shot that the Celtics will beat them, in my opinion, because without Jason Tatum, that makes it almost impossible. And I don't really know if there's any other team in the NBA that when the Knicks played their best brand of basketball, they can beat any team in the NBA. And in my opinion, you could go up against anybody when you have those guys putting up those numbers. It doesn't click all the time. It's not the best oiled machine in the NBA that can score offensively, but their defense is so good, which makes them such a tough team to go against. When you have Bridges and Anunoby on the wing, probably the 2 best wing defenders in the NBA, it makes it super difficult when they can really stretch the corners on their offensive side of the ball and just knock down threes for you and, just have a really good offense. And it helps when you have Mr. Captain Clutch and Jalen Brunson as well down the stretch. And I expect a ginormous game from him tonight.
Yeah, and I think they're sort of what makes this team run because of their defensive versatility. As good as Brunson are and Cat are on offense, they really don't play much defense. Brunson and Cat get eaten alive in the pick and roll.
Well, Brunson's effort is better though than Karl-Anthony Towns. And I want to see the effort tonight from him because you know what, effort was lacking in Game 5, and it was frustrating to watch. I want to see strong effort. You saw it from Josh Hart. You saw it from Mitchell Robinson. There's got to be a whole team effort tonight, and OG Anunoby's got to be on his game because that's what happened in Game 5. Game 6, different story. The Garden's got to feed into that too. Give them the energy to go out and do that.
Yeah, and if I'm the Celtics, you got to keep looking to exploit those matchups, trying to draw Mitchell Robinson away from the rim. But I think it was Game 2 where they were posting up Holiday a lot early against Brunson, and they were having success, and then they just completely went away from it. You have to make Brunson and Cat work, and why were they so successful last game? Brunson picked up 5 fouls in the third quarter.
Yeah.
So he wasn't able to be himself. He wasn't even able to play the whole quarter. Mr. Clutch Player of the Year was having to sit out because he was in foul trouble.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why the Celtics were able to maintain that lead. So Game 6 tonight, the NBA is such a game of chess more than it is of checkers. Teams are constantly making adjustments. Earlier in the series, teams are trying to feel each other out. Now we get to this point, and the teams know each other so well. They've already played each other 5 times. They know what each one wants to do. It's about who can execute, who can make big-time shots. And the Knicks, I think, have, Brunson, and the Celtics don't, in terms of Brunson is that fourth-quarter clutch guy that they can go to. And the Celtics have shown vulnerability late in the fourth quarter throughout this series. But I think it's going to be a really good game. I think the Knicks need to win tonight. If it goes 7, I think this really gives an edge to the Celtics. I'm going to go with the
momentum will
tonight,
feel that way, but we got to remember, I believe it was 2 years ago when Boston was down 3-0 against Miami.
The Warriors just did it against the Rockets. They had a 3-1 lead, and then they went back into Houston and won Game 7 there.
Yeah.
It's the same situation that the Knicks would be in.
The Warriors were up 3-1, right?
Yeah.
And
the Warriors were up 3-1.
And they lost 2.
And then they lost 2, and then they went into Houston and won Game 7.
And all momentum is pointing towards Houston.
Yeah.
So, like that, it's only happened 13 times in NBA history for everyone to know. And 3-1 comebacks. Obviously, you can point to big ones. You look at LeBron versus the Warriors.
The Warriors got to the finals by making a 3-1 comeback that year against the Thunder.
There's another one. So, you can point to a lot of things that would say, even if the Knicks lose tonight, everyone's going to be like, oh, Boston's going to win. It does still rarely happen. I think it's like 280-something to 13 overall when you have a 3-1 lead. But the momentum would be pointing that way. But I think the Knicks are going to get it done tonight. And we didn't even talk about the issues for the Boston Celtics outside of the Tatum injury. And Jaylen Brown, in the first few games, not really playing that well. He did really well in Game 5. Kristaps Porzingis, I don't know what is going on with him.
Viral sickness.
He's got he's got an illness going on, but I don't know if it's like mono or something because it looks really weird because he has been a non-factor. He's been horrible. Drew Holiday, I don't think he's played good this series. I think he's been people looked at him just a couple of years ago as one of the best players in the NBA, as like a role player guy to D you up and go out there and just annoy you and take your best player. Jalen Brunson's done fine. Jalen Brunson's been great. I think that a lot of this could be pointing towards the beginning of something new in the Eastern Conference. When you're looking at big picture here, if the Boston Celtics lose, this is a Knicks Pacers Eastern Conference final, and you got to look at the next season for Boston. They're going to lose Kristaps Porzingis. Al Horford's probably going to retire, and they're going to be without Jason Tatum for probably the whole season, the whole regular season. It is still a good team without him, and I believe that Jaylen Brown is on a contract, going to get a new contract, and I'm assuming that the Boston would re-sign him, but that is still up in the air. There, there are a lot of things that can change very fast. Just last year, this team won the championship, and everyone was like, "Wow, this could be the start of something." They got a really, really good team. They are the oldest team in the NBA. They have a bunch of situations going on. They're going to be losing guys. Um, and without Tatum, with that Achilles injury, we know what happened to KD. He didn't even play that year in Brooklyn, that first year. It can derail your kind of career. We saw what happened to Klay Thompson. And, it's a brutal injury. And just like that, in a snap of a finger, the whole shape of the Eastern Conference and of the NBA is completely changed. And I think that these young teams, the Pacers, the Knicks, are really looking at this as an opportunity now to, we're a year ahead of schedule. The Knicks built a team to beat Boston. They weren't thinking they were going to do it this year. They were thinking in the next 3 years we're gonna do it and finally go for it. Like that'll be our run. Your time is now. Coming into the series, people were saying it'd be good if the Knicks can force it to a game 6 or 7. Well, once you go up 2-0 and you go up 3-1, it's no more. Well, all right, hey, at least we got to 6, we got it to 7. No, it's full steam ahead. It's let's go win the finals this year. Let's at least get there. We'll worry about the Western Conference when we get there and see who it is. But yeah, this NBA playoffs has been great, and I think it's the start of a lot of new things that we're going to be seeing. You saw Steph and the Warriors lose, even though he was hurt, which is unfortunate because that series would have been great to see. You saw LeBron and Luka lose with the Lakers. We thought that they were going to be a really dangerous team this postseason. And right now, it's the Nuggets and the Thunder in a Game 7, and everyone had almost booked the Thunder to go through and beat Denver. And I was the one who was saying, you got to hold up. You got to be a little careful here. This Nuggets team is really good, and Jamal Murray had a great game last night. So we'll see what happens out there. But the Timberwolves are for real, and Anthony Edwards, a young superstar. There's a lot of things to look forward to here, and it's a lot of young players that are making a name for themselves this postseason, and the games have been truly terrific.
Yeah, going back to the Celtics moving forward, I think Drew Holiday's age is really starting to catch up to him. He's 35 now, I believe, which just doesn't really get talked about. I think it's more
Exactly.
kind of his age than anything. But I did see a stat the other day. I think Brunson's shooting under 40% when Holiday is the one guarding him. It's just been switches, which is what the NBA has turned into now. It's just high ball screens, and teams have to switch because guys are such good shooters. You can't really play drop coverage anymore. So it's really just switches, and teams abuse that. But you mentioned Porzingis and his illness. We hope he recovers. Last year was really excited during this playoff run just to see how good he could be on a contending team. And this year, he just doesn't look right. Something just looks off. We don't know exactly what his illness is. You mentioned Horford retiring. He might have another year or two in him, but not much. And then Tatum's going to be out.
39, 40.
So the end of the Celtics dynasty,
It wasn't even a
yeah,
dynasty.
we can't really call it a dynasty, but end of the Celtics run is, I think, closer than a lot of us see. But Tatum and Brown are both under contract for at least one more year. So if Tatum can get back for the playoffs next year, I think the Celtics really can run it back. But they're going to have to find help from other guys as well. The team that I really want to talk about is the team that's already booked their spot to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Timberwolves or the
The
Pacers?
Pacers, the Indiana Pacers. This is a team 2 years ago who I was comparing to the Chicago Bulls. Thought this team had no direction. They didn't have the talent to contend, but they weren't bad enough to be in the draft lottery. They were kind of just hovering around this playing spot, and all of a sudden, guys have just emerged. Miles Turner, it felt like, was going to get traded for 5 straight seasons. He's now been with the team for over 10 years. Tyrese Halliburton has emerged into a superstar, and this team is so deep, and they have so many different guys who can get it done. They just beat the 64-win Cavaliers in 5 games. And I know the Cavs have injury problems. You can put an asterisk next to it. If the Cavs are healthy, I still think the Pacers win this series.
I think it's more of a Cavs problem than a Pacers triumph. To be frank, I mean that sounds a little harsh, but did anyone really take the Cavs as the number 1 seed in the East? No, everyone was saying it was Boston. It was like everyone was saying they were a Fugazi 1 seed that was just had a really good seat record and regular season, but that still means something. So I understand what you're saying, Garrett. Tyrese Halliburton can turn it on. He is very, very clutch. I know Jalen Brunson's the clutch player of the year, but there's a case that Tyrese Halliburton is right on up there with him if you go 1A and 1B maybe.
Yeah, and the thing that really annoyed me was they did a NBA players poll, and he was the recipient of the most overrated award, and you saw
I
Cleveland
don't think he is at
fans
all.
chanting overrated.
Yeah.
I
He's
he's not.
underrated. I think he's underrated.
He's not overrated. I mean, the Pacers are in the Eastern Conference Finals. You look at the roster they have, and I think we'd all agree it's the least talented roster that's left in the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, they have one star. That's it in Halliburton.
And I just
And that's
love
it.
I love the roster construction. And the Cavs, I don't think the Cavs were just this team that you can roll over. I know Donovan Mitchell has had playoff struggles, but to me it felt like it was the Cavs, the Celtics, and the Thunder in terms of the three best teams throughout the NBA. It sort of felt like one of those three teams was easily going to win it. The Cavs felt like they were going to translate to the playoffs. You know, they had the new coach in Kenny Atkinson,
Hmm.
and I know Garland didn't look healthy. Mitchell had some health problems. Mobley missed a game, but the Pacers have looked so good, and shout out to their player development group. They have taken guys who I thought were seventh or eighth mans and inserted them into the starting lineup. I mean, how good have Andrew Nemhard and Aaron Nesmith looked?
Yeah.
Aaron Nesmith was like a
And
defensive
Nemhard is
specialist.
so good. Yes.
Aaron Nesmith came from Boston as like a defensive specialist, some guy that he was kind of like an old version of Lou Dort. You just throw him out there to put on the best player, but he can't play heavy minutes because he can't produce on offense. And now he's a two-way 3-and-D guy who can score off the dribble as well. And Andrew Nemhard in just his second year has become the second best scorer on this Pacers team. He has taken a tremendous step. Miles Turner's shooting, relocating threes as a 7-footer. They have guys like TJ McConnell just coming off the bench, can get into the paint at ease. Pascal Siakam, we haven't really talked about him much, but this trade that they made at the trade deadline last year for him has plummeted them to 2 straight Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
So Pascal Siakam might not be putting up 25 a game, but he's really helping out this Pacers teams. And I think Rick Carlisle is the best coach that's left in the NBA playoffs. He's done such a good job with this Pacers team. They run, they play so fast, they play so hard, and they play in the clutch too. They had big comeback win against the Bucks in the first round, a huge comeback win that no one really saw coming against the Cavs in the second round. And so, being the least talented team left in the playoffs, I still think they can win it all because they're not over reliant on Halliburton. Even when he doesn't play well, they can still win games because of the amazing depth they've had. And Michael, I know Obi Toppin, a guy in the Knicks that you watched for a year or two, he just didn't fit the Knicks. He doesn't fit playing with Thibodeau. He fits this Pacers team. He gets to go out there and he gets to be himself, which I think is such a good spot for him. You saw that Dr. J-like layup he had. There's an asterisk. He put a second hand on the ball, but I think he's found himself in such a good spot, and this Pacers team is just playing so well. You mentioned how the Knicks don't always play up to their potential. I think the Pacers have really hit their stride and their potential at the right time.
I think so too, but a lot of that I have a question mark with. Can that still continue, especially as you get into the Eastern Conference Final? This is a team that went 7 with the Knicks in the second round the year before, but the Knicks were injury ridden. I mean, they lost OG Anunoby early in that series, and after that, it was a different team. Now this is a very different Knicks team. It's a very similar Pacers team. I believe it's almost identical, right? I don't think there's been any changes actually.
I just think it's a better team. I think it's a lot of the same guys, but they're just better.
I think they were really good last year too. But the difference is now that they're going up against a completely different New York team. If the Knicks win, put an asterisk on that. I mean, I think that Game 6 tonight, I think they get it done with. If not, then Monday makes it super interesting with Game 7. But this is another rivalry. So this is why these playoffs have been great. The last time the Knicks made the Eastern Conference Finals, I believe, was 1999, and that was against the Indiana Pacers. And they're going right back to that. There's been many times that they faced off. Everyone points at the Reggie Miller 8 points in
13 seconds.
or something like that, or 6 seconds I thought, or something crazy.
Something crazy.
Which is another reason why I have a problem with Reggie doing the games. It was hard to watch last year, especially when he's doing Pacer games, because it's just he's rooting for them. That's a separate issue, but no, Garrett, this Pacer team has been really good, and I think it's been fueled by Halliburton. He's been so clutch. I mean, that game that they stole in Cleveland, where he missed the free throw, got his own rebound, and then shot a 3 to hit it, gave the Cavs 1.5 left. You can't ask for anything more. The guy he's had ice in his veins, and it wasn't the reason the Cavs lost. It wasn't because of Donovan Mitchell. I'll tell you that. I know he missed those 3 free throws. There was a huge, but he put up numbers for them, and he just didn't have enough around him.
And he left it all on the floor too. He always plays so hard.
Yeah, he cares.
So it'll be interesting to see what the Cavs do because they had so much success in the regular season, and there was a little bit of an asterisk next to their loss because of the injuries. But I think we got to talk about the West a little bit as well. We've been Eastern Conference
Yeah.
dominant thus far, and the Western Conference, 3 teams remain. We got a Game 7 Sunday between the Nuggets and the Thunder, which I think has been the best series of these playoffs so far. I know the Thunder blew them out in Game 2, but every other game felt like it's come down to the wire. Yesterday was kind of the Julian Strawther game, scoring 15 points, hitting clutch buckets, back-to-back threes at one point to put the Nuggets over the edge. And what you said about this Cavs team, might have to say the same thing about this Thunder team. If the Nuggets win, that's the second year
Yep, it would be exactly the same.
that they will not make it out of the second round, despite being the 1 seed in the. I think they might have been the 2 seed in the Western Conference last year.
And can we just quickly say, SGA, Shea, you've had a great season, but you're not the MVP. It's Nikola Jokic.
Jokic is the MVP.
But I think he's going to be the MVP. That's the annoying thing.
The thing is, the MVP is usually released by now, and these two teams are playing. These two guys are playing against each other in the playoffs, and they haven't released it yet. So I'll be interested to see if they give it to the winner of this series, or if the outcome of the series has an impact on that, even though they say it's a regular season award. But
if it was a true regular season award, you would do it directly after.
SGA, he's a great player. There's nothing against him. Jokic is just the best player in the NBA.
Yeah.
But when Jamal Murray and the surrounding cast with Jokic really shows up, and Jokic hasn't even been amazing in this series. The first few games he struggled.
Recently,
the Nuggets have the potential to be the best team in the NBA. When Jamal Murray, Porter Jr.'s had a terrible series, but if he can show up and be better, Aaron Gordon has had probably the most exciting playoffs of his life. A couple game winners, a buzzer beater in that first round. He didn't play great last night, but the Nuggets are just less than 2 years removed from winning it all. And I know they lost in 7 to the Timberwolves last year.
I believe
this is a really good series.
How many series in a row for the Nuggets have they gone to 7 now?
It's been a lot because they lost in 7 last year, and then they went to the first round. In the first round, they went to 7. They're going to 7 again, so that's at least 3. So they have the playoff experience.
Before that, then
the first round last year, I guess.
I think it might have been 7 as well.
And we know they won the finals in 5, so
okay,
most it would be as 4. But the Nuggets,
it's nuts, yeah,
they've been tested, and maybe the lack of rest is going to catch up to them, whatever you want to say. But I think the Nuggets are going to go into OKC and move on. And the other side of the bracket, I don't think we learned anything from the Timberwolves after beating the Warriors in 5. Steph Curry wasn't playing. I'm not here to make excuses, but the Timberwolves are a better team than the Warriors without Steph Curry. It's simply put it that way. To me, their statement came in the first round when they beat Luka and LeBron in 5 games, which talk about somebody who went from their job completely being on the line and hated by the city in Nico Harrison to somebody who might have just made the next dynasty in the NBA by the Mavericks winning the NBA draft lottery. That was completely insane. I do not think it's rigged, but it's completely nuts that they're now going to be pairing Kyrie, Anthony Davis, and Cooper Flagg along with everyone else they have on that roster. After trading away Luka and failing to make the playoffs, it's pretty cool to see because of all the smoke that Harrison was getting. I know he didn't have anything to do with the draft lottery. That was
some say he does. Some say Adam Silver said, you know what, trade your best player, go get Showtime out in LA for LeBron, and then we'll give you the Cooper Flag. But
but Showtime,
LeBron tweeted it. Yeah, after these NBA players have tweeted it. He goes, "Oh, really? You think it was?" I mean, on McAfee, when he was on McAfee, our friend of the program, Pat McAfee, he was on there. LeBron was in an interview and was saying, "You think it was just a coincidence that the Akron, Ohio kid goes to Cleveland?" I mean, these are the NBA players saying it. They don't know what happens behind closed doors. I'd like to believe it's not fixed going into it.
I think it's been fixed. Like Ewing going to New York, I will say I think was fixed.
Same with LeBron to Cleveland.
I think you could say that is fixed, but I don't think
Rose to Chicago.
In the past 10 years, I don't think anything has really been fixed. I mean, if you wanted to make Cooper fixed, I don't think they would have sent him to Dallas.
Now, what about what can we say about I mean, now the Mavs have come out and said that they believe they're going to hold on to that they're going to hold on to that pick, but some people are saying, well, do you want to trade it? Go out and get Giannis or something like that. That's been a talking point.
Yeah, to me, I'd rather have Cooper Flagg than Giannis. He's a hard guy to build around, I think. But that's the question that it's been raised, and it's been one of the biggest questions about this offseason. It feels like Giannis' time in Milwaukee's done. I don't think the Bucks really...
Well, he's finally said that he's comfortable with leaving.
Yeah, and I think the NBA has sort of blown that out of proportion. I don't think he necessarily requested a trade. I think he's just feels the pressure and he feels the organization maybe trying to move in a different way.
Yeah.
So I think Giannis will end up somewhere else next year. Maybe it's Miami, maybe it's San Antonio, maybe it's Houston. I think Houston would be a good spot. although they do need shooting. But going back to that Lakers Timberwolves series, the Timberwolves just bounced them in 5. I picked the Lakers to go to the NBA Finals. I thought they really had it with Luka and LeBron, but Anthony Edwards is a blossoming superstar. I don't even think he's blossoming anymore. I think he
Oh, he
is a
is.
superstar.
This is the thing. He's got that
He's got
Kobe DNA. He's got that
M-
Jordan DNA.
He might actually have the Jordan DNA.
He might. He could be. He could be the long lost son that everyone knows. And everyone does. I said it was Jimmy Butler. It didn't seem like that. Jimmy didn't step up to the plate against Ant. Honestly, there was such a need for somebody to step up to it and be that guy for Golden State and just take control of everything. And he didn't do it.
And it's not playoff Jimmy can't be playoff Jimmy anymore at the age he's at. He just looks older. I still think he can be one of the centerpieces of a title team. I think him, Draymond, and Curry can be the centerpieces of this Warriors team and win another ring next year. I think they just need to really surround themselves with the right guys. But even this year, I don't think the Warriors, I don't necessarily know if they had what it takes to win it all, but we'll never really find out because without Steph Curry, it doesn't matter really who else you put on this team. They're not going to accomplish the same level of greatness. You thought maybe they could just get one game and Steph could come back. However, that wasn't the case, but it's going to be a really exciting rest of the playoffs, I think, with the teams we have left. I think the NBA.
I think the playoffs have been exciting too. They've been so great.
I think the NBA might be rooting for the winner of the Knicks Celtics series versus the Nuggets in the playoffs, but it's very possible we could see an Indiana-Oklahoma City final.
I think they'd almost be rooting for also a Knicks Timberwolves final. I mean, the trades that happened there, Randall and DiVincenzo going back to New York, Cat going back to Minnesota.
Randall had a very good series as well. He's
great.
He's been really good in Minnesota, so I'm happy to see him doing well. But just from the NBA's perspective, it would kind of be funny to see the Thunder and the Pacers go at it.
Yeah, when we were talking about a couple of months ago saying, they really want Boston, LA, that's what you're looking at, and we know it's not going to be that, but it looks like it's not even going to be Boston. We'll see what happens in Game 6 tonight, and then obviously we'll do an episode before the Eastern Conference Finals or during the Eastern Conference Finals to talk about that specific matchup, whoever it is against Indiana, Boston or New York. But we also have some baseball to talk about too, Garrett. It's the Subway Series starting tonight in just about 20 minutes. Juan Soto returns to the Bronx. I don't know. Baseball is the part of the season right now where NBA playoffs are going on. There's more important things to talk about, but it goes without saying Aaron Judge is having the most spectacular season I think I've ever seen in my lifetime. What he's done, hitting .415, I want to say now, with 15 homers. He's a triple crown leader right now, as it is, and I've never seen a guy that is going to hit. Maybe he'll hit 60 homers again. Maybe he'll hit more than that. Hit 400. It doesn't happen. We're watching history right now, and I think you just got to appreciate it.
Yeah, when Shohei Ohtani's not pitching, Aaron Judge is the best player in baseball. There's nothing much else to
without
say there.
that. He is when he is too. Yeah.
Ohtani having another great year as well. You can call me biased. I just don't think this has been the most exciting MLB season thus far. The AL has looked.
Because the O's are in.
You can say it's because the O's have looked. They're just not good. But the Tigers aren't exactly the most exciting team, and they're leading the AL.
They're one of the best teams in the American League.
They're in first in the AL right now. But besides that, it's just been big market superpowers dominating. The Yankees, the Mets, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Cubs. Those have been the best teams all year, and those are the teams with the best players on them because they've been able to afford them and they've paid them. You mentioned Juan Soto. He's had an underwhelming season so far. Obviously, you can't get on him yet. He's still batting over 250, and because of the amount of walks he draws, if he's batting over 210, he's a guy you need in the lineup. And because
it's been the Trent Grisham show. It's been his counterpart that came over from San Diego for the Yankees. It's been unbelievable. What a story that's been. It's almost like 2022 Matt Carpenter, or was it 2021? I think it was 2022.
Yeah, must have been.
Who just retired, by the way. Thanks, Matt, for some memories.
Yeah, and that's the thing about baseball. Like, obviously, this is an exciting series. It's the Subway Series, but it's not going to determine much besides it's fun baseball to watch in May.
That's why that's honestly the only reason why we're even talking about it right now.
It's because, the MLB has so far to go, but I think we sort of already know the teams that are going to be contending. It's going to be the Yankees. I think it's going to be the Tigers in the AL. The Tigers have such good pitching.
Well, the Yankees are going to make moves out the trade deadline, which will change.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that.
Without Cole, I mean, Max Fried has been unbelievable to say the
Yeah,
least.
but the rest of their division has been really underwhelming. The Red Sox haven't really taken the step that some thought they
Everyone
would.
thought they were
The
going to.
Blue Jays kind of just right around 500. The Rays are kind of thought
The
what I
Rays some days look like they're a 100-win game,
yeah,
100-win team, and
they're
the other times they look like they're a 50-win team.
yeah,
It's
they're hot and cold. I think they're going to be around 500 and the Orioles right now are the fourth worst team in the MLB. It's just a complete train wreck in Baltimore. I didn't think that they could really mess up all the talent that they had on that team. Somehow they managed to trade some really good hitters away, keep some who aren't doing so well, make some who are really good players, hint, hint, Adley Rutschman, into guys who look like they have no idea what they're doing at the plate. He looks completely like he's lost all of his confidence.
it's crazy.
No pitching left whatsoever. I know Kyle Bradish is hurt. Zach Eflin went on the IL after like 2 starts. Felix Bautista finally came back in that closer role. He's actually looked really good now. I'm blanking on one or two others. Grayson Rodriguez, one of their best prospects. He's been a good starter the last 2 years. He's hurt. I mean, Charlie Morton and Kyle Gibson we're throwing out there in the rotation who have just been abysmal. Tomoyaka Sugano has been one of the only bright spots, this 35-year-old from Japan that we signed. Can't say he's going to be with us too much longer, being 35, but it's just you hope you can maybe flip some guys and bring some pitching in next year. It's already a 2026 looking forward to for me as an Orioles fan. I mean, this season's pretty much kind of over already. Just the complete lack of pitching, and the bats just aren't there. I do think it's time. Brandon Hyde needs to get fired, and we need a new hitting coach, as well as probably a new pitching coach as well. But there needs to be other changes besides the roster. You know, it's just grown stale with Brandon Hyde at some point. You know, you had the rebuild for so long, and finally the Orioles hit the peak of where they wanted to be. They had the 1 seed in the AL. Last year they had a really good first half. They slowed down in the second half, but they still made the playoffs. When you rebuild for that long, your stint at the top shouldn't be this short. But that's the problem with baseball is there's so many teams who have to rebuild, and there's other teams that just don't have to, like the Dodgers, the Yankees, and the Mets. There's no signs of them going away anytime soon, and because they just don't have the money, and the Orioles, they just won't pay the money, and that's the story with a lot of teams.
You feel better?
I mean,
You got it off your chest.
I've got it off my chest to a lot of people now. It's
You got it off to the audience finally.
not-
Shout out your O's fans, Garrett. That's the target audience.
it's not exciting to talk
That's
about.
a little
but
segment right there.
just, when you're a small market team, it's just sad to see. You know, the Steelers.
Can we talk about this?
I
Can we
can-
talk about the
I can-
Steelers, Cowboys?
I can put
Let's
up.
talk about the trade.
We can, but let me just say, I can put up with some seasons of the Steelers being bad. You know, they have tied for the most Super Bowls. They've been above 500 for so many straight years, but the Orioles have just been bad for so long that you want to see their stint at the top become a little bit longer. But if you want to talk NFL, we can talk
Schedule was released.
George Pickens to the Cowboys, a trade that I think benefits both teams. I like it for both teams. As a Steelers fan, Pickens didn't want to be in Pittsburgh. He only has 1 year left. He wasn't going to re-sign. We don't have a quarterback besides Mason Rudolph to throw him the ball. So there was really no need for that. And after we signed DK, they sort of played the same role. And I really like it for your Cowboys because the Cowboys are at the point I think they need to be in win now mode. And so they finally got that number 2 to pair alongside CeeDee Lamb. And they're in one of the best divisions in football. To compete with the Commanders and the Eagles, they had to go out and get somebody else.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Pickens addition is huge for them. It really makes it a lot harder for opposing defenses to look at this Cowboys offensive attack from the passing game and say, well, how are we going to guard this? You know, double CD, well, then Pickens might have a field day. We'll see what happens. But he's got talent that is second to none to anybody in the league. The question
I
mark
don't know
with
about
him-
second to none, but
I don't. That's whatever. He's 6'3".
he's talented. But
And he's
there's
blazing
next,
speed.
There's a next level of guys in the NFL.
Yeah, he's not CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, but you know he's right there. He's in that second category, I believe, of guys. He's a perfect wide receiver too. He's a wide receiver 1 on so many other teams. I think you're feeling a little upset since he didn't want to be a Steeler, but yeah.
I think he's going to flourish more in a Cowboy system. I just don't think the Steelers' offense is very creative, and I don't think they really use Pickens in the best way they can. I think we sort of held him back a lot, so I see what you're saying from that aspect. I think he is better than we made him look, but there is a next level of guys who Pickens is not quite in that category.
I mean, we'll see what happens. He hasn't had the opportunity, really, some would say. I think that you also have to look at what Dallas has done in the offseason. This is something that they don't usually do, make trades for a big-name guy like George Pickens. That's what they did. Their draft, people are grading it as one of, if not the best in the NFL draft this year. The Booker pick, even though some say they've reached on that, he's probably going to be a Pro Bowler for them, like going to be a great guard. They're shoring up their offensive line after losing Zach Martin to retirement. He was hurt last year, didn't really play. Brock Hoffman stepped in, was great and excellent. Um, Dallas actually made stuff happen in the offseason. The addition of Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders in the backfield, drafting Jaden Blue from Texas, who we've watched and is just in the playoffs. You saw him; he's got blazing speed. That guy is special. We'll see if it translates to the NFL. A lot of moves to have, and then from the ACC, Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College, the edge rusher who had 16 and a half sacks and led college football in the second round, I think is an absolute steal. To pair him up with Micah Parsons, Sam Williams, and Dante Fowler, they got back from Washington. They stole him back. I think that it makes a lot of things interesting, and everyone loves the Cowboys in May, June, July, and August. That's the time it feels like Dallas is doing their best with the offseason talk. But it'll set up Week 1 for the NFL kickoff game against Philadelphia, going there and to Philly as the Eagles unveil their banner for the Super Bowl and get their rings out. Maybe the Cowboys should spoil it. Either way. I think it's a great way for the NFL to kick off the season as like the best rivalry in the sport. It's just going to be fun.
Yeah, I mean, how I feel about the NFL draft is you can give teams all the grades you want. Let's see how they perform on the field.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of annoying when these teams are going.
But when Dallas drafted Mozzie Smith and Luke Schoonmaker, I go, that's a bad draft. That's graded poorly. And guess what? Mozzie Smith sucks, bust. And Luke Schoonmaker, he's okay, but Jake Ferguson's tenfold better. So it's like, I think there's certain things you can look at, Garrett, and say that's a good pick, that's a bad pick. Siobhan Revel Jr., don't know. He tore his ACL.
I think it's more about, the positions that you draft, whether they're actually a positional need or whether it feels like you're just stacking up on positions that you already have.
Now, I will say this. Isn't it interesting that the trade happened after the draft? For the Steelers, I feel like they would have rather get that done before the draft. I don't know if they drafted a receiver early or something, but I just feel like it's kind of interesting how that all went down.
Yeah, no, I don't think the Steelers really know what they're doing as a team. I don't really think they have a plan. to me, as a Steelers fan, I want Mason Rudolph to be the quarterback this year, and I want us to suck and be very bad. I want Arch Manning or somebody else in this draft to come to Pittsburgh. The problem with the Steelers is that Mike Tomlin likes to go 9-8 and 10-7 most years. So whether it's Rodgers late signing or somebody else coming over, I have a feeling that's going to happen, and Tomlin's going to try to win as much as he can with this roster. But to be frank, it's just not that great of a roster. So I think he needs to accept that and realize that it might take a couple of years of being pretty bad to rebuild this roster, that you can't just get stuck in this rot of mediocrity, which is what they've been in for so long.
Feels like 15 years.
Get pounded by 30 in the wild card every year. It's not really that exciting to watch. Maybe last year
you want to jump ship.
Things felt different with the 10-3 start, but it's just not really how it was. I guess we could talk about. I think we have to talk about the surprise of the draft, which was Shedeur Sanders falling all the way back to the 5th round.
Yeah,
it was literally the second quarterback taken by the Browns after Dylan Gabriel. You heard that some of the meetings he had didn't go well. It was even, I think, Sanders and his agent both. I think it was forgetting the team, but they said don't even release the tapes because that's how bad it looked. But
legendary.
If you're the Browns, so many other teams, shame on them for not taking a chance on this guy who had so much success in college. I know his dad was the coach in Colorado, sort of let him do, whatever he wanted, but this guy has so much talent to go in the 5th round. Half of these guys are taking in the 5th and 6th round might not even be on your opening day roster. It's like, why did somebody in the 3rd or 4th round not just take a chance on him? I don't really get it.
Yeah, I think he should have. I think he was more of a 3rd round pick in my eyes. I didn't think he was. I thought he was going to be way overdrafted, overhyped, coming into it as a top 5, top 10 pick, even where people were mocking him to go. I didn't think that he was quite that good, but 5th round after Dylan Gabriel. Come on. Do you really not think Shedeur Sanders is going to be better than Dylan Gabriel? People are already saying it from minicamp that's going on right now that it doesn't even look close, that Shedeur is 1,000 times better than Dylan Gabriel. I guess they're afraid of almost this Johnny Manziel 2.0, except the things with Shedeur haven't come out as he's a partier and all this nightlife stuff that happened with, Manziel that kind of derailed it. They're just more worried about his ego, which is like, I guess I can understand it, but it seemed super excessive to go to the 5th round. Just doesn't make sense. I guarantee you it'll be better than Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel he's not going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. He's not even gonna be a start. He might be a second, third string guy, maybe second string at the best.
Yeah,
I'd
I
be
don't think they
shocked.
necessarily drafted Dylan Gabriel to be the guy. I think the storyline was more just
Well, the
they had
Browns are
already
stupid then for doing that.
they had
That's a
already
waste of a
drafted.
pick. Yeah.
It's shame on the Browns, but it's also shout out the Browns for taking Shadur Sanders. This is a franchise that can't seem to get the quarterback position right
Oh,
ever.
that's the only thing. He's going to a franchise that always gets it wrong. They got it wrong with Baker, and now Baker's flourishing in Tampa Bay. I think this is a terrible situation to go to. Going to Cleveland. If he could make it work, it would almost make it even more impressive by Shador. But I could also see this not working out, and it's just it. And you can point to the Cleveland Browns as a place where quarterbacks go to die because that's what everyone says,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
that's what happens.
it's certainly been the case. If I'm the Browns, I just give Shadur Sanders the keys to the offense and say, go cook this year and let's, see what you have in him and see if he can be that
You
NFL
don't want Joe Flacco to
superstar.
play.
I do not want to see Joe Flacco out there at 40 years old or however old he is now. Dylan Gabriel, I think, his ceiling is a backup quarterback in the NFL. I just don't think he's that amazing, but I think, he can be serviceable. But Shadur Sanders has the talent. He's shown us the plays in college that he can be a superstar. I'm not saying he will be, but to me, I like what the Browns did. They took a chance on him, although it felt like they passed up on him like 10 other times. But just see what you have in Shadur and let him go take control of the offense for a few games, and then you can coach him up and coach him up along the way. And who knows, maybe it'll take him going to a different franchise to have success because that's what it feels like with every quarterback that goes to the Browns.
Time will see. It's a long story for Shador, but it's also pretty cool to go from Jackson State to then Colorado, and I guess to even be drafted. I don't know how many guys from Jackson State usually go, but that's where he's coming out of high school. But we'll see what happens with him. I think there's a lot of question marks, and a lot of them don't even reside with him. I think Stefanski's a good coach. I think Cleveland's a horrible place. It just seems like there's a curse there with
Yeah, there's
quarterbacks.
just something about Cleveland and quarterbacks and
It doesn't
football
doesn't work
success,
out.
offensive firepower that don't quite match up.
Well, Garrett, we got to get this episode out to everybody, and we got to get ready for the Subway Series, which is happening in less than 10 minutes here. Game 6 tonight, Knicks, Celtics, Yankees, Mets. These are the days of beautiful day out. You can't ask for much more. We thank you for listening, everyone. We're back. We are here, as you can see. This is not my college dorm. We're not on Zoom.
This episode was
I
a little
can
bit.
touch him. He's right here. I can see him.
This episode was a little bit all over the place, but we needed to get a lot off our chests. We needed to talk about things that we hadn't talked
We
about.
can talk about the O's for 5 minutes.
We wanted to talk about our favorite teams, and we wanted,
Yeah.
to talk about the Knicks. We wanted to talk about the Orioles. We wanted to talk about the Pickens trade. Once we start getting these out more often, we can zero in on these things even more, and we won't have to recap the last 2 months.
Now, we have to give our partner too, who we
We do.
sponsor with.
We
have to
do.
give them
You
a
wanna
little
do
segment
it?
here. I think I should, because what happened last night was I showed up to this place in downtown Victor, as you've probably heard me say before, called Molly V's Ice Cream. Really a fantastic place. I was with my two dogs, a dog-friendly joint. It's called Molly V's based off the dog, right, Garrett?
Yep.
And, I get there. It's 20 minutes after close. Now, this is the relationship that I've built up with Molly V's over the years. This is what we've done. They let me go in, and I see this guy named Dave Vistoco, great guy. And I see his father there as well. And there's two people in there. And you got to look at them. And I say, Dave, all that I've done, all that we've done together with CR Sports and Molly V's shouting you out on the broadcast, in the podcast, is there any shot I could get some ice cream? And you know what? It won't be free this time. We're still working on a CR Sports flavor, by the way, everybody. The Michael and Garrett special. But I say, can you get me some ice cream? I get 5 things of ice cream. Come back home. It's excellent. It's the best ice cream you'll have.
Best homemade ice cream
in the
I've
Finger
ever
Lakes
had.
area. I mean, the best. Even, let's say, the Rochester area, because that's, we're kind of in that in-between little spot.
I don't think
here in
I've
Victor.
ever had better ice cream, to be
It's-
honest, Michael.
It's honestly the best ice cream, right?
It's the
Frankly,
best.
the best. Yeah, but shout out to Molly V's. Shout out Dave. Seemed like he was doing well. Good to see him. But, yeah, it was a great time at Molly V's. Stop there when you're in Victor. It's the best ice cream you're going to find. You're coming from the Finger Lakes, coming from Syracuse, coming from downstate.
Coming from anywhere.
You can stop right in Victor. It's
Forever
right
in
off
the
the
area.
thruway. You coming from Rochester? You coming from Buffalo? You coming from PA? You coming from Cleveland, where all quarterbacks die? Guess where you can stop? Victor. It's in the in-between spot. It's a little pit stop for you, and you can get right off the thruway and stop at Molly V's anytime you want. And you can even cater them as well in the little truck they got going on.
Going
for
on
their
2 years
events.
now of this partnership with them. We are so grateful that
They are our
they have
longest partners.
sponsored us,
Yes.
and we get to shout them out and have this wonderful relationship.
Well, we thank you for listening today, everybody. Go stop at Molly V's, watch CR Sports. Follow Garrett and I on our Twitters where we post about sports. Follow us on our Instagrams at CR Sports, and follow us on our own Instagrams as well. That's you can find more of us, and you'll be seeing a lot more. So thanks for listening today, everyone.
Peace out.